Hey everybody. Today's video is a reaction video to Ace Maneuver's R4 check attacks bad for the game. The video is called The Impact of Attacks with 4 Control. We'll go ahead and I'll link the video in the description box below. So go ahead and give Ace Maneuvers a like and comment and sub. He does a lot of work for the community, doing a lot of he casts. Obviously, he does a lot of really cool events like as Ace Arena, Webcam Warriors. Go ahead and go support him. Yeah, please go give him a follow on Twitch or subscribe to him on YouTube. So we're gonna go ahead and look at the video. We're gonna listen to it and react as it goes. I haven't watched it. I've watched like 10 seconds to get the sound all ready to go. So hopefully it works. And we're not doing this multiple times. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Are good checks bad for the game? If so, does that mean bad checks are good for the game? Is this more of an existential question than anything? I think the easy answer is no, but
Before it goes any further, I would agree with that statement, right? Like, I mean, like, tax with good checks are probably not the best because it breaks the risk reward of the game. But again, conversely, it's what's any different than it being a bad check, right?
the simple answer is yes. Let's find out why after a word from our sponsor. The Stark Dark Open Series is a standard
Hell
tournament
yeah.
with a $2,500 prize pool. It's happening June 21st over at Counterspell Games down in Jacksonville, Florida. And the best part? Even if you don't win big in standard, there's a Rochester Retro 1K side event. So much UVS is happening, so much cash to be won, you don't want to miss out.
That's some crazy price payout, right? But yeah, if you're in the Jacksonville, Florida area, go for it.
So, for check attacks, a natural taboo that has been broken by Attack on Titan sets, they made a pretty big splash, and I think they achieved their primary goal of getting people to talk about them. However, it's been a little surprising to me that they aren't splashed into average decks a bit more often.
That's true. I think that's what was like the main we don't know the exact reasons why they made these, other than the fact that they're really big and powerful. So they made them high difficulty. So really, an 8-4 is the same as a 5-3, and a 7-4 is the same as a 4-3, and the stats are just a little bit better, but the effects are crazy because there's no reason to not. Why would you play a high difficulty attack if the effects weren't really good? Um, to tailor back, I actually think it's bad for the game as well, just because we'll get into it as we go. But yeah, I don't think it's great that we have I think it would be fine if the you weren't able to make an entire deck of 4 check attacks, right? I think people they were hoping that people would play like one or two, or we would play Ravages of War, then we're gonna play this really cool backup one, and then we're gonna fill in with all the rest of the attacks, right? Not we're gonna play the best 4 check deck possible.
A big reason for that, of course, is their difficulty. In an attempt to balance out the benefit of an additional control value, they have often been very high difficulty. But the issue is the opportunity cost is not exactly even. So let's compare and contrast 4 check attacks to 1 and 2 check attacks. While 1 and 2 checks have had their difficulty all over the place, they
Yeah.
often conform to the 4, 5, 6 norm. There have been bad checks that are overstated, but typically in a goofy way and not statted so well that it would make much impact.
Like, okay, if we look at these two cards, just on face, the 6-1 is probably overcosted for a 1 check, right? Like, it probably could be a 5. Because if you check a 1 on your 6, that sucks. So it probably could be more in line with pressing the advantage. Pressing the advantage is probably more of a more fairish 2 check. But it's still very powerful, so that's why I think the 2 check there is warranted. I just don't think the 1 check, outside of like the one Midoriya deck it was played in, I don't think it was, heavily played.
Usually attacks get a lower check for their text. They're allowing you to go above and beyond what would be fair in exchange
Yeah.
for high risk. And where that risk lies is all the difference. So instead, overstated attacks that get played are often higher difficulty. And now these often fit into some sort of cheese strategy that is exploiting a natural weakness early.
That's funny. Considering that right now I'm playing Smiling Titan at locals, that's really hilarious because it's true. The deck is cheese. It really is. It basically makes some characters they don't exist. But yeah, the deck is cheese.
Game. So why is Overhead Heel Crush a contender and Blindside Eruption is a meme? It all lies in opportunity. Blindside Eruption occasionally denies you the opportunity to play other cards. It affects your build turns, your attack turns, and your block turns. Blindside Eruption shifts both the traditional difficulty and control down by 2.
Hmm.
And this card sort of proves why these two numbers are not equal in potency. No matter the difficulty of Blindside Eruption, it could even be a 1 difficulty attack. But the control of a card interacts with the rest of your deck more
Correct.
often than the difficulty will. Difficulty is a temporary hurdle that you can choose when to interact with. You decide when the 9 difficulty of an unexpected outcomes is relevant. Control checks by their nature are out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at the difficulty of these attacks, and it seems like they understand.
I do like the slow pan into the 9, but he is right though. Like, um, you can play higher difficulty stuff even if the control check matters the most because your difficulty you will eventually will jump over that hurdle, like you said. Um, like on your first build turn with a 1 check in deck, you have to build on a 1 right the entire time. So you're playing a bunch of 1 diffs and spam and zeros to net your first turn because after the first turn it really doesn't matter that much. Maybe it matters more during attacking and blocking, but like for building like purposes, usually after your first turn you're pretty safe.
Raise the check by 1, and you need to raise the difficulty by 3 or 4. Except the stats of the attacks can't be created equal either.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot that can be covered about the opportunity cost of a single card, but that's more of a strict difficulty discussion than the control value discussion. It's a question 3 difficulty attacks have been asking since forever.
First and third are broken. Second one was played. Well, I mean, I would say the third one isn't broken because it's only broken in Deviljin, but the first one, especially Soundwaves, was insane when it was played. It doesn't matter who played it; it was worth the opportunity to check a 2. Um, but that one was probably their most powerful 3 diff, next to Aerial Goblin Bolt that can now just cancel characters at will.
But in an effort to control this conversation, I'm going to stick to how control values affect deck building and gameplay. Because with high diff attacks, you expect to commit some resources,
Mm-hmm.
leaving yourself more vulnerable and only be able to play 1 attack per turn usually.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to make that count. And for the most part, I think they've done a good job keeping that faithful. For the most part. But where this all breaks down is how do you overcome these drawbacks? The main answer is building more foundations,
Mm-hmm.
and to a lesser extent, checking better. And that first one, building more foundations. Not only do 4-check attacks help you build more, but importantly, they let you build better foundations.
And I believe that's like the number one argument for the 4 check deck attacks. It's well, one, like the attacks are like really powerful. I think the second argument would be that you can play multiple 4 diff, 5 diff, not 5, 4 diff, 3 diff foundations, like these powerful foundations earlier than in later game than most decks. You can string together. Let's just say we all play just mono 4 check attacks. We can play on a 3, on a 4, on a 3, on a 2, on a 3, on a 3, or and then on a 4 or whatever, depending on how you build. So you're able to play 3 invincible bodies, turn two invincible bodies, and then it's say a 2 diff, and then a 1 diff, and then a 0, and then another 0, right? You can actually outbuild a 7-hander with this style of deck on turn 1 pretty easily. Sometimes it seems like, at least my practice at locals. Um, Being able to just drop multiple invincible bodies or desperate struggles on turn 1, on turn 2 after a poke with an 8 diff move or a 7 diff move is just very, very powerful. And you get to, and a lot of the times in our game, earlier turns, you don't get to spam out all these more powerful foundations in your rival unless they're playing the same strat. But like your 3 diffs are 2s, your 2s are 1s, your 1s are 0s, and your 0s are negatives, I guess, or whatever. They're still 0s, but it just feels like you're building them for free. But you don't play a whole lot of those anyways. Mostly you play like the 0-6 syndicate target, so you can check a 6 or whatever, because having as many 6, a lot of times as many 6s is good. So, yep, let's continue.
You get to run at least the same number of 2 difficulty and 3 difficulty foundations as a quote unquote normal deck. The quality of your builds just go up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the minimum build amount compared to the average difficulty for both 2-check and 4-check attacks.
I like this because I just talked about it. So now we get to see it in practice.
If you play all 0 diffs with 2-checks, you're guaranteed 3 foundations.
Mm-hmm.
If you play all 0 diffs with 4-checks, you're guaranteed 5 foundations.
Correct.
This sounds like it's in the favor of 2-checks until you attempt to play one of these attacks and check poorly. In a 2-check deck, the average difficulty of a 2-check is 5. If you check a 2 on it, you have to commit all 3 foundations you built to pass it.
Correct.
If you play a 4-check attack, they're pretty evenly split between 7 and 8, but we'll use an 8 diff since I think they see more play in competitive. If you check as poorly as you can in a 4-check tribal deck, you have to commit 4 foundations, leaving you with 1 extra compared to the 2-check.
Mm-hmm.
This is sort of the hidden reason why most 2-checks that get played are 4 diffs, despite the majority of 2-checks being a 5 difficulty.
Yeah, this one technically is a 5 difficulty attack because you always play it as your 2nd or greater move. But yeah, this is probably the premier 2-check right now being played. Lethal Slash. It's super good. It clears itself after because it's a 5 diff because you play it on +1 progressive. So unless you're mirror and you play a foundation, build it, and then play this. But yeah, whatever.
But it also shows how 4-checks help to solve their own problem. This is on top of the fact that 2-checks have pretty much never been good enough to play as a tribal deck before.
I have done nothing wrong ever in my life.
Oh my god. I know Hellfire Impalement's broken and it's crazy, right? Tell me in the comments below. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember it that much, but I know Ace Maneuvers played like a Dark One deck and it was revolved around that and it's nuts. Plus, I love Parks and Rec and John Ralphio and his sister are my favorite. They're hilarious.
Yes. And I love you.
On top of all that, at the end of the day, it's just a little less exciting when the value of control checks shifts upwards like this.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do most of the successful 4-check tribal decks tend to push things to such an extreme that making control checks barely even matter.
To be fair, these are the only characters that have played like a 4-check tribal. I know Kevin Broberg in his World Championship deck played some 4 diffs, along with some 3 checks and 4 checks, because with this Hanji 2. So yeah, like it was a little bit of a mixture. But yeah, Smiling is the #1 4-check tribal, and Mothra with George Zhang's Mothra, I believe that was in Atlanta, topped the same thing because, hey man, we're going to give an attack 8 speed. That's pretty sick.
A lot of the excitement for the game hinges upon making control checks. Not to mention 2-checks can't benefit as much from checking better unless their difficulty is also cranked.
Mm-hmm.
In a weird way, I think that's a credit to both the designers and the deck builders. Players generally don't want their games decided exclusively by control checks, but decks that make control checks obsolete are not healthy either.
Yeah.
I know there's an argument for 6 checks are the new 5 and Four checks are the new threes for this deck. Scoundrels will tell you that a three check is the new two, but if
I tell that is okay. So that's funny because I actually feel like that's pointed at Smiling Titan players because that's what they say. We all say that the 9/3 Colossus Titan's destructive power is really our 2 check, right? And then we can use League Interview to curb that, as make it to a 4 if we check it. But yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, that is the 2 check in the 4 check tribal deck. It's really funny.
using normalized ratios for the non-attack cards, it really isn't the same. A four check isn't the new three when my battle order release is still a printed 4 speed move, and
Hmm.
that's the worst you can check. The only time I felt like the four check was akin to a three check is playing versus Bill Evans' Godzilla deck that basically only checks fours and sixes, and the text on the cards might as well be flavor text most of the turn. Overall, I am of the opinion that nothing is truly taboo. There are so many knobs and dials you can use when designing games, so I won't say there should never be a 4 check attack or a 5 check attack or anything like that. And ever since the most recent World Championship, we are seeing 4 checks and 3 checks working together.
There we go. I was just talking about it. Yeah, this is the deck that won Worlds this past year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. It played 6 4 check attacks, and then the rest of them were all threes. So yeah, yeah. But this deck was super cool and awesome, but like I don't know, like I think that this is what they wanted, right? When designing 4 check moves, is that they wanted them spliced in with your threes, not just decks just straight up playing 4 checks, right?
Often. So I think the dials are tuned to a good place. But I wouldn't be all that surprised to see Attack on Titan Apocalypse reintroduce a new 4 check tribal deck to the metagame. But what do you guys think? Have 4 checks been a positive impact? Have they been a negative impact? Have they just been yet another toolbox for players to fool around with? Let me know down in the comments your feelings on 4 check attacks. I've gone kind of back and forth on it, really, but like I said, I don't think anything is truly taboo. I'm a Storm player in Magic, so
I kind of know
powerful
what that
mechanics
means.
aren't necessarily the end all be all for me.
Yeah.
Also, please check out Webcam Warriors 2. The sign up link will be down in the description or pinned in a comment below. If you haven't signed up yet, the winner gets up to $200 in cash
Hell yeah.
prizing. Plus,
This
all
video
of
will be
top
out after
four
this
is going to
happens. This
get
happens technically
boxes of
tomorrow.
Attack on
So.
Titan Apocalypse. Thanks to Marvin Emery over at Undefeated at Locals. I'm super excited for this one. It's going to
So we'll just finish out the video here. Yeah, so it's just kind of crazy, right? Like, let's get to a cool spot where we can see stuff. Yeah, there we go, right there. Yeah, like I think that the 4 check attacks were made and like, hey, we're gonna add some to decks, right? That some people are gonna play some people are gonna not play some, and like we'll mix it in with their 3 checks, right? But then they made like the way attunement works is that now we're just gonna play all 4 check decks, and then our build curve scales, and it can kind of make for some non-games sometime. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of crazy. But I like his video. I think it's really good food for thought. Me personally, I'm just like Ace Maneuvers, where I kind of waffle back and forth. Like right now, I'm playing Smiley and I'm having a blast, but my rivals aren't having a blast because because they're huge. But it's a really different way to play the game, and I'm glad I'm getting to test this out because it's just it kind of teaches you kind of self-control. Like you just not slam every orange card in your hand because you can't. But yeah, it's really neat, and you got to do a lot of math on how you you want to kill your rival, or how can you make the check if you check the 3 here. Is it worth committing? Is it better just to build here? Whatnot. So and you get a little more onus on your foundation choices. Like you get to play some really cool 3 diffs. You get to play a really neat DR package and X, Y, and Z. So let me know what you think in the comments below about the video. If you share the same sentiments as us, or and sentiments as us, that's sentiments, that's rocks. What you guys think about the 4 check decks, the 4 check attacks. Are they a good thing, bad thing? I'm kind of in the middle. I don't care either way. They're a part of the game now, and they're probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon, especially with AOT 3 coming out. But I'd be surprised to see a forecheck outside of AOT. So unless we have like another kaiju type set. So that's all I got for you guys today. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit those bells for notifications. Don't forget to go click on the link below, go sub to Ace Maneuvers channel. Thanks again for Ace Maneuvers putting this out. I like piggybacking off other people's content because it's fun. Yeah, so until the next one, take care.